Yeah, even now he sulks like Achilles in his tent. Achilles? It's the Iliad?
Dun 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 dun.
It's Homer! Read a book!
It's time now for something unprecedented on Read a Book. It's partly unprecedented because we've never reviewed a screenplay before, and it's also unprecedented because the show is called Read a Book. The segment is called Read a Book, and you usually have books on Read a Book. But this was a piece that we had to read and not watch or play or anything. And it's not a comic book. And it didn't have pictures. Right! So we are going to do it as the Read a Book segment, because it's not like we're going to have time to read much else with this and all the comic stuff we did this week. So anyway, today we've got a treat for you, I think. We're going to... And this fell in my lap almost literally. I did not expect that I was gonna see this, that I was gonna get to look at this. I have been told that this is available online. I would have never thought to go look for it, and it's really cool to see it like this because this is probably an authentic photocopy from the time. So this is the original first draft Sam Hamm 1989 Batman script, first draft before anything else was done to it, and this was 1986. This was what it looks like when you open it up. First draft. October 30, 1986, copyright 1986 Warner Brothers, and property of Warner Brothers Incorporated, the address for Warner Brothers, and it is a photocopy of the complete script. We are missing one page.
Are we? Because you told me that when I read through it,
You didn't find the missing page?
I didn't find the missing page. There was one point where I thought a page was missing, and I realized I just turned 2 pages instead of one.
Where exactly it is, but I kept checking to see if those pages were stuck together, but I'm positive it wasn't there.
And there's also a couple pages that aren't numbered because of how it was photocopied. So
yeah,
but I didn't catch a missing page.
And I forget where exactly it was. Now I should mention it's been a few weeks since I looked at this. I read this as soon as I got my hands on it because I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm looking at this. And I mean, like I didn't expect so much would be different, and then it became a page turner because it's a different story.
Because the first 20 pages are almost exactly the same.
Yeah, but some of the way they're different is interesting, and some of the lines that made it in the movie that are thought of as some of the best lines in the movie, it's interesting that they're not here. But then it diverges, and it becomes a totally different movie.
But also the same movie?
Yeah.
The beats are the same. Like, you totally see how this became that.
Till the third act. I mean, like, I feel like the end of this movie is a very different movie.
Really? The third act still, like... It still felt similar to me. Well, like, I totally see how you get from this third act to that third act.
Part of it's because I know what the Joker's doing and why.
That's true. That's true.
He's like once you have a motivation for him, everything makes a lot more sense and it's a lot better.
But he's still giving out money. There's still the balloons. It still ends in a church. Like, it's structurally still very much the same.
Yeah, that's true. But you got the whole thing with the statue that wasn't there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're seeing...
still in the church? God, it's been so long since I looked at this. I can't remember.
It still ends in the church because they go up the church and there's a whole thing with the trap door.
So part of the reason we want to talk about this is... Well, I should mention real quick how I wound up looking at this. Eric's boss, who's a friend of mine, had this in his car one day when I came to the store, and he said, Cap, I really want you to look at this and tell me what it is. And I took a look at it, and I was like, as far as I can tell, this is an authentic, photocopy from that time. And he said, we'll take it home and read it. And I said, yes, I'd like to do that. I'm going to see if I can get him to let me keep it. He's going to buy it from him or something, because this is a really cool artifact if it's what it looks like it is. And anyway, it was it's just, like I said, kind of fell in my lap. And now we've read it, and this changes everything for me with 89. It's one of my favorite movies. It's made less and less sense the more I've watched it. I don't care. I still love that movie. It's gonna be hard to watch after looking at this. And part of that is because I have said for so long that you can't have Begins without 89. And that's not true, because this is sort of Begins. It's not Begins.
It's not as good as Begins. And this is a first draft.
Yeah, it's not as good as Begins, but it's about Batman. It is a Batman that is afraid of bats. There's so much Begins in it.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Like when you look at 89, it looks like a prototype. Like looking at it after, everything's relative. Looking at it after all the Batman stuff that comes after it, where we actually get more of a sense of who the guy is and the psychology and what he's all about and stuff, and the way Batman Begins plays with fear as a motivator and all of that. It feels like 89 is almost like this prototype thing where it's all style and no substance, and like there's potential in a couple of characters, but there's not any actual characters really. And Batman is just this guy that there's a wall up and we're not allowed to really see him. And it's almost like you needed that like dark looking but still kind of kids playing with action figures movie before you could get to the real character driven story Batman movie. No, that's what this is. It starts as a movie about Batman and who he is and what his psychology is and why he feels the need to go out every night and punish criminals, and it's really good. It is a first draft. It's not perfect.
No, it's not perfect, and what's really unfortunate is some of the best ideas and scenes in this draft are not in the final film, and some of the ones that I would think you would get rid of in a second and third draft moving forward are still there. One of the weirdest things is that this has the scene where Batman drives up to the Joker's factory and blows it up, and then immediately tells the Joker he doesn't kill.
Yeah.
That feels like a thing you would get rid of in a later draft.
Did we get rid of... somehow or other, did he know that none of the Joker's henchmen were there? In the actual film, it sure looks like there are people there.
Yeah, yeah. So there's like a couple of things where I'm like, oh, I would have thought this would have gotten reworked in the final draft and you wouldn't have some of this stuff, but that's the stuff that ended up in the movie.
So, we're gonna not like fully, review this, and of course that would be kind of weird. It's this like unfinished thing.
It's a first draft, yeah.
But part of the reason we want to do this was for education purposes. If you have not gotten a chance to sit down and read this, and I suspect the majority of people haven't, I've never read this, and there are assumptions I've made and perceptions I've had of Batman on the whole that would have changed and have now changed because I've read this, and so I want to kind of do a service and let people know about this. What we're going to do is we're going to make this more about just telling what happens in it than giving you like an in-depth review of it. So I don't want to try to go like meticulous detail every little thing that's different.
Yeah.
But I want to go broad strokes and talk about the big things and the big really interesting, kind of like what I did when I first read it and just told you about some stuff. What are the big things that A, are different, and B, we really, really wish they'd left in?
Okay, well, before we get to any of the plot stuff, the number one big thing about this is this feels like a Batman comic book when it came out. The movie doesn't. The movie feels like Hollywood making a Batman movie.
And this is looking at Miller, but also just Batman comics at the time.
And you also see way more what Steve Englehart was talking about when he was talking about like how
almost like
his Batman.
Almost like Englehart read the script or something. Because if he had said that after reading this, I would agree with him.
Yeah, not the finished movie, but this script. But this feels so much more authentically Batman, and the Joker reads like a right off the page joke. Like you could see Mark Hamill doing this. Like he has that thing that he has in the comics where like. He's like really cool and calm and gets really angry out of nowhere.
Do you remember I told you that I read a draft at one point that wasn't this, it was a later version, but maybe it wasn't the final version, where I said on the page he reads like 80s comic book Joker, but then Nicholson gets a hold of it and does a whole totally different thing with it. I don't know if I was reading the final draft or a different one.
I'm willing to bet the final draft for 89 looks different than the...
It's got to. I mean, we know there was some ad-libbing going on, and a lot of it's just line readings, right? Like, Jack Nicholson's take on this is not at all what Sam Hamm intended.
No, he feels so much more authentic. It's interesting because it's a blend of, I think, classic Joker and Dark Knight Returns Joker.
Yeah.
Especially when we get to the third act.
Yeah. He's really interesting, right?
Yeah, no, he's actually, like, an interesting character with motivations. And he's scary and crazy, and no, everything about this feels far more authentic to the comics than the film we got. Especially the comics of the time.
Yeah.
It really feels like Sam Hamm, well, maybe he was already a Batman fan, like went and read a bunch of Batman comics before he wrote this.
Like Roger Ebert reviewed 89, gave it 2 stars, and said, I think 2 or 2.5, and said, Batman's such an interesting character, why can't we get a movie that's actually about him and that doesn't, like, put a wall up, like I said earlier? He would have liked this movie.
Yes, he would have liked this movie. This movie is about Batman.
This is a 3-star Batman movie, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. If they'd made just this draft, it's a better movie than 89, I think.
Yeah, and there are things that should be changed, but yeah, just this draft, leaps and bounds better than 89. And this is coming from somebody that loves 89. I guess we can say this just real briefly. The problem in translating it, and I don't know what the later drafts look like, but the problem with translating it to screen is mostly casting and directing, and directing even before casting.
Tim Burton's a huge problem.
Michael Keaton is the right pick for the version of Batman that Tim Burton made up based on the script. He's not right for this material.
No, he's not right for this material at all.
Jack Nicholson is right for a, I'm sorry to say, like update of Cesar Romero, but he's not right for this.
No, he's not. I don't know exactly. I've always said it should be Willem Dafoe, like in that time period. And there's pictures of him around this time period where he looks like the Joker. But other than that, like, I don't know who the right Batman.
It doesn't matter who it would have been. I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
like, and you need people that are kind of more interested in a story and
characters.
Yeah. And, like, Jack Nicholson was necessary to sell it, and arguably, without him, you would have never had the Batman onslaught we had afterwards. So, don't get me wrong, I still love a lot of things about that movie if I didn't have this and what they... And when they decided to make it a totally different thing, but I don't feel like it's this.
No.
Like, it's weird the things that are still here, that are in that movie, but...
Yeah, it's...
And you don't get weird, hilarious, awkward moments like, can you pass the salt? And
No,
you know how
because
a
it's
normal
an actual
person,
character piece.
yeah, I know, and I love that stuff. But it's a weird movie that's not really telling a story.
And this, I think, drives that home.
All that stuff I said about how I've said in the various times we talked about '89. I mean, it's so weird. Like, I thought I was done with '89. Oh, I've not scratched the surface. All the stuff I've said before about how that movie, I think, at some starting place, thinks it's about 80s materialism. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yep. It's... Like, any excuse anyone makes for that movie and its incoherence all goes away the second you read that script. You're like, oh no, they made distinct choices to make a dumb movie.
So
they started in a much smarter place than what that movie ended up being.
So let's go up and make the big checkmark list.
Okay.
The big things that are different. Knox is not just comic relief; he's a real character,
and he has a character arc and a point for being in the story.
And has a really sad, tragic death at the end.
Yeah, and
did you like that? I liked that.
I did like that quite a bit. And he's the one that figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Like 30 pages in.
Yeah. He is very important to this story. He's in the... Looking back now, it's like, why is he even in that movie? Having seen what he was supposed to be, why is he even in that movie? Why didn't you cut him?
He's a detective. I mean, It's really cool. We have a Batman movie where there's this detective guy who's investigating Batman and figures it out.
And what's really interesting about Knox is that he is almost every scene from the movie, his dialogue's the same. But then you get, like, more dialogue that feels exactly in character. That was one of the weirdest experiences I've had, where I'm like,
yeah,
here's all these lines I know from this guy. And so I can picture that actor, right? And then he keeps going, and he keeps he's completely consistent as the character. You're getting more material for that character.
But he's clever, not like laugh out loud funny. It's not the same kind of funny.
Yeah. It's a little bit more just kind of, I want to say...
he feels like Ben Urich in his prime. He feels like if you saw like a 25-year-old Ben Urich, that's what that is.
Yeah, he's more snarky.
Yeah.
Than he is like the comic relief of the film. But no, I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, I can still see that actor playing.
Yeah, no, that would have been the right casting choice.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, he's...
And Michael Gough would have still been right for Alfred. And Alfred doesn't get much to do in this, but...
Yeah.
I don't even think he gets more to do than he does in
to point a gun at Robin.
That's true. He does get to point. Yeah, that's right. He does come out with a gun.
So
yeah. I forgot all about that. Oh, I wish I'd had a chance to look this over again before we did this. I forgot all about that scene. We'll talk about Robin. That whole thing is very, very
That
strange.
could all get cut.
And should be.
And almost without altering any other part of the script.
It is thrust in real hard, yeah. They do use that to explore how Batman feels a little bit about his parents' murder and stuff. There are conversations he has that I would need put somewhere else. But other than that,
yeah. Vicky Vale is a completely different character, and her inclusion,
very likable,
really likable, and her inclusion in the plot through the Joker makes 1,000 times more sense.
Yep.
Basically, the reason that we have the museum scene, the reason that the Joker's fixated on her, is not that he randomly sees a pretty face. It's that he wants someone to chronicle what he's about to do, and she does that kind of thing as a living.
Which is in that scene, but it feels like that's just a part they forgot to take out of the script, right?
Yeah, because he also lists like 3 other explanations.
Yeah, he also,
and he's
for some reason, thinks she knows something about Batman. What can you tell me about Batman? And, And he's into her, and it's just that whole thing is really. He's like you remember how that scene plays? He says, and we'll talk about this in Batmania. We have talked about this. You will see it. He says, I want you to document my art, and you'll do this and you'll do this, and then just a couple lines later, she says, "So what do you want from me?" He just told you, and now he's going to say something different.
And the scene at her apartment makes more sense because
it's earlier.
He's contacting her and saying, "Get ready, because I'm about to do something. So get ready to chronicle it." Like, he has a reason for involving her at all.
Yeah. And Dance with the Devil's not in this.
Is not. Well, because that comes from him being the one who killed Batman's parents, which is not in the script.
Right.
She's a far more fleshed out and likable character, and you completely buy and understand what she sees in Bruce Wayne. Or more so, I don't want to say completely. You more so buy and understand what she sees in Bruce Wayne. She's a lot better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any major other points with her that is different. Without getting into the Bruce Wayne stuff.
Just the way she finds out that he's Batman is really good.
She and Knox do it kind of together.
We go a lot longer and farther with the whole she has photos Batman wants thing, and it's much clearer what's going on with that, and that and that she was taking pictures and was planning on publishing them. And you have that kind. I mentioned Ben Urich earlier. You have that kind of thing of like she wants to expose him initially, but then comes to kind of decide that that's a bad idea.
Yeah. She. So Knox figures it out really quickly that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and she doesn't believe him until she has the pictures.
Oh yeah, that's right. Here's the bell tower stuff. Okay, I remember that now. But anyway,
but that's kind of the big thing with her, or that's one of the big things that's different about that is she actually does get to keep those photos, and that is how she finally is convinced. Oh, Bruce Wayne is in fact Batman.
Oh, yeah, and I forgot about that whole weird ticking time bomb thing.
Yeah, with the bats.
Yeah, where that's set up really like way earlier, and like he has more of a sense of ingenuity, and he doesn't feel like just a I win with gadgets Batman. Mm-hmm. Like he does use gadgets, but like he uses them in interesting and clever ways. It does the Batman Begins thing. Where we're jumping all over the place, but it does the Batman Begins thing where he can press a button and summon a bunch of bats to him, and that's how Joker gets knocked off the bell tower.
I'm not sure where that falls around year one, because year one's the first time I'm aware of that happening. But if this is October '86, I think that's before year one comes out.
Which is really interesting.
But I might be wrong. Yeah.
Unless it came from another comic story that he read, that Miller read, that we're not aware of.
Yeah, that's possible as well. Do you want to talk about Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, let's do that. Go ahead.
So Bruce Wayne is a character in this script.
Yeah, isn't that great? That's very exciting.
We're with him very much. We learn a lot about him. It's a really distinct and interesting take on Batman.
What I like about it is that he is like Bruce Wayne and Batman are separate entities, and when he's Batman, he's Miller's Batman.
He is enjoying doing this.
He loves it, and he yells a lot, and it's hilarious, and I want to see that on screen. He's like a smiley Batman, and it totally works. And he's more brutish when he's Bruce Wayne. It's almost like being Batman is a release for him, but he's not a crazy psychopathic
There's a
murderer
point where
guy.
he specifically says that.
Yeah.
That being Batman is a release, and he's able to be more himself when he's behind the mask.
I like that a lot. I think it works.
I agree.
And this is kind of the Batman that thinks of himself as Batman first, but he feels more human in the Batsuit.
Mm-hmm. We get this scene. It's the scene that in the final film is where Joker and the Mimes show up for no reason and attack that guy.
And we also get random clowns here too, but
well, it's that same scene. There are random mimes.
Yeah.
But the point of that scene in this script is Bruce Wayne can't get away and become Batman, and he feels helpless and trapped.
And in the movie,
and he has almost a breakdown.
I don't know why they even left that in.
I don't know.
Because in the movie, he just like has bullets graze off of him, and then Vicky's like staring off, in a corner, like watching him, and then he walks off. Like it's sort of pointless, except just to see Joker kill people in public.
Mm.
Also, it's weird later when he says, "I'm not a killer," because he killed someone like right out in the open in public.
Yeah. So that scene makes sense and has a purpose in this script and tells us something about Bruce Wayne.
And that's true of so many things that don't in the final version.
The museum
again, it's
scene,
just unfortunately not about telling a story anymore. And I mean, that movie
apartment
looks like it was conceived of scene to scene.
Mm. Yeah, and it's so weird with this.
And I like the scope of this, where like their first date is on a yacht, and it's everything's not in Wayne Manor, and I get budget constraints and stuff, but it was just kind of nice to see this, or to read this anyway, realized in the bigger kind of comic book scope, where you're like, oh yeah, like you're imagining, oh yeah, if we made it maybe now. Some of that stuff is easier to do with CG
I don't know,
and stuff.
because I feel like so much of the limitations of that movie are how they decided to make it, which
you gotta keep it stylized. The problem is this would not have been as stylized of a movie,
no.
And also, importantly, it gives us dates. It makes it squarely the year it is, which '89 does not do, and it's a choice I like a lot in '89. You mentioned when you started reading it that you really liked what the script says at the beginning, that it's 1987 once removed. It's like an alternate universe, you know. It's this really stylistic, kind of more noirish world, and it still has that 50s gangster feel, but it is a version of 1987. Having read this, I feel like, yeah, if you're going to use Prince music, that's probably what you should have done with it. You probably should have said it's the 80s. And again, with the materialism aspect and all of that, it needs to be a modern, updated, yet still looking kind of out of time Gotham. It should have been. I cannot believe I am saying this, because I've always loved that about '89. Should have been dated.
Yeah. Well, and some of the scale is bigger. So when you get to kind of the ending, the whole city has a blackout, and he's riding a horse, which apparently was shot for that film. Or supposed to be shot for that film. There is a horse riding sequence.
Yeah, interesting.
After Vicky's apartment.
That whole thing is weird. Did I read that wrong? He's on a horse and he gets in the batsuit on the horse. Like he's on it as Bruce, and then eventually he somehow gets the batsuit on.
I couldn't figure that out.
I wasn't sure what I was reading at that point. And then like he comes up upon Dick Grayson in the middle of all of that, and way too much is going on in that scene.
But like that's the end of the second act, is this big chase on horseback. And then when we get to
it's big. It's a little big. When
we get to the climax, it's not so dissimilar, but it's larger in scale. You're seeing things happen throughout the city. You have the thing with the statue.
And I forget, we get the Batwing because he steals the balloons again.
Yeah, the balloon thing is still there, and he still has the Batwing.
Does he crash it?
He does. But I was really unclear about how it happens. Like, maybe it's just because I was kind of like trying to finish it.
What made it crash? Yeah, I forget now.
It's just at some point he goes down. But he also doesn't grab the balloons and take them up. He shoots a laser that cuts the cords, and they just go up into the sky on their own, which makes about as much sense. Like, why wouldn't you just cut them? Why do you have to personally take them into the sky?
He does not yell, "He stole my balloons," when that's just said.
No, he just keeps yelling like, "No."
Yeah, that's right.
But Bruce Wayne and Batman are actually characters, and like there's thought put into them. I do think it maybe goes a little bit too far with the like he's a crazy person reading of Batman.
I just gotta mention real quick. Yeah, that's true, and unfortunately, that's probably part of what Tim Burton latched onto, and why he kind of stopped being human pretty quickly. Yeah, Jesus Vicky is one of the greatest choices for famous last words.
Yes.
I love that. Before Knox dies, he says Jesus Vicky. Yes. I love that.
Knox and Vicky work together and help Batman in the climax, and Max gets shot, or Knox gets shot, and like they have like we did it, and then like he just like looks down, sees how much he's bleeding, just says Jesus Vicky, and that's how he dies.
Oh, and again I'm jumping around, but they I forgot about this. So I mentioned there's a lot of begins in this. There's also a lot of Batman Forever in this. The thing in Batman Forever that's a lot earlier, but where Robin shows up and helps Batman out of rubble. That's in this. They pulled that straight out of it.
That's how he gets out of the Batwing in the script. Do you want to talk about Robin?
Was there any more Bruce Wayne stuff you want to talk about?
Nothing's jumping out at me. Just that, like, it's hard to explain without just going into like explicit detail. Like, just kind of Bruce Wayne is an actual character with motivation, and like he feels much more like a real person.
How much do you weigh is still in here?
Yeah, and he brings it back, and because she says I helped you, and he's like that's just because you lied about how much you weigh.
Yeah,
that wouldn't have happened.
It's actually better in this. So Robin shows up in this when Bruce Wayne is riding through the city on a horse.
there is a free street circus going on, and
in the middle of everything.
In the middle of everything.
Isn't it night?
I think it's night. Maybe it's not, because he was at Vicky's apartment.
Maybe not. Maybe we just assumed it was night, but then you have Batman during the day on a horse, and that's really weird.
Yeah, and his parents die. There is a really cool image that I like, though, which is his mom, because there's helicopters. Because
that whole thing seemed very surreal to me.
It was very strange, but I like the way it's set up. His mom's holding onto the plane like you would a
trapeze.
A trapeze.
Yeah, that was cool.
I thought that was cool, and then she dies because it's Robin's mom. And then Bruce takes him home. We get like 2 pages of them interacting. And then Robin just disappears for the rest of the script until he shows up to help Batman, and then he just disappears again.
That's not true. There's stuff in the Manor with Dick Grayson.
That's what I'm talking about. There's like 2 pages in the Manor with Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
Like, we spent a couple of pages on Dick Grayson.
Okay.
But then the rest of the movie keeps going, and he's just at home with Alfred.
It's a setup for a thing that doesn't know if it's getting a sequel, and that's really strange.
It's also so strange it's so late in the script.
Yeah.
And then he comes back dressed as Robin and helps him out of the Batwing, and then seems to disappear again as Batman goes up through the church.
He feels like one of those characters that you get in like old 8 or 16-bit beat 'em ups where you press the select button and they show up to help you a little bit and then they leave real fast.
It feels like
that's what he is.
It feels like he was like 60 pages into the script, and he got a phone call saying, "Oh, by the way, Robin has to be in it."
And he's like, "Well, how am I going to do that?"
I guess he just shows up.
He does not read like a Batman that even needs a sidekick, and that was a really good change they made. He should not be in this story.
No. And I feel like you could almost cut those pages out and feel like you didn't miss anything.
You could maybe introduce Dick Grayson. I mean, the way they do it is really strange, but you could have you could have Joker be indirectly responsible for his parents' deaths, and then because here's the thing. A lot of versions of Robin's parents' death, it's deliberate, and he's closer to Batman if it's a random guy with a gun, and so you could do that, and I would be okay with it. Although, if you do that, it makes it maybe a little bit harder for Dick Grayson to be as different from Batman than he is, because he's lighter than Batman, and so I don't know about that.
I really like the way he's written.
Yeah.
He's real, like, casual and laid back, and I kind of enjoyed that.
A little sassy here and there.
Yeah, he says yo a lot. That's his big line. He says yo. I think there's a scene where he introduces, like, two bad. He's like, yo! I think maybe you could have gotten away with it if, like, his parents died, and then, like, somehow the epilogue of the film is him taking on the responsibility of watching Dick Grayson, but getting him to be Robin, that's too much too fast.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So, let's talk about the Joker. I like the Joker a lot in this. I think he's quite good. It's really, really sad that his villain plot gets watered down to the point of being almost nonsensical.
It seems like he has a different plan
movie.
every scene in the actual movie.
Yeah, and like obviously it keeps going with the thing with hairspray and chemicals and things, in all the chemicals that can get mixed together. And I always thought that was an interesting idea. And he's got this background in chemistry, which that doesn't seem like a guy that would. But he's got this background in chemistry, and even here it still doesn't seem like a guy that would. But he comes up with this way of killing people that's more off the radar. But then he comes out and says like, buy my products. And it's supposed to be like scary and chaotic because you don't know what you're buying and if it'll happen to you. Here he's got a actual point to it and a reason that he's doing it, and it's, I think, really creative. Where he's trying to make everybody else have to either look like him or not put on a mask. And what this script says about masks is really interesting. And so then and I don't even think he has it in this script, I forget, but the line that he has in 89, in the final version, toward the end, where he's like, I've taken off my makeup, let's see if you can take off yours, is really interesting if you actually have the plot that he has there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that line works really well if it was in this script.
And it's so much clearer reading it on a page that it took me multiple viewings before I realized what in the world was going on, why people were looking really gross and not made up because they couldn't wear makeup. Like, they went too far in the movie without explaining what people were doing. With that whole thing where it was just people can't use cosmetics.
Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale just still look amazing. And the film and the script never notes...
That's a great point.
And the script never notes that.
Yeah.
It's never like, and Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne also, like, look bad. It never mentions that they also look bad.
That's true.
It's in the script.
That's true.
They also look
Well,
good.
he has special bat cosmetics.
That's true. That's true. He probably has, like, bat shampoo and things like that.
Like, if he owns his own company for that, and there's no way Joker could have gotten to it, that would be an explanation.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Harvey Dent is in it more, but not a lot more,
and
but he is in it more.
Doesn't have a lot of characterization.
No, but my favorite line by him is in the script, the Ghosts and Goblins bit.
Yeah, that's still in there.
That's there.
Yep.
But he is in it a little bit more than he is in the movie. Not.
I want to talk a little bit more about the Joker for a minute,
Okay.
because I mean, obviously that's a huge
Yeah.
thing. He doesn't take over the movie like Nicholson does, obviously, because we're not thinking about who's playing him yet. But he doesn't feel like just a generic villain. I mean, he's very much the Joker.
And the director, who's far more obsessed with the villain, hasn't been attached yet.
Yeah. I like I said, I like how chaotic and actually psychotic he seems, and I like what the story is. The way the story is playing with those identity ideas. But I still take a little bit of issue with, like, where he comes from and where he gets to. Like, I'm still not totally sure that making this a Joker origin really works.
Him starting as Jack Napier has all the same problems it does in the movie because it's exactly the same. Like, what's interesting is the first 20 pages are almost exactly the same except for a couple of slightly different, like, lines and line readings and things like that. That's all stuff I thought I would think if I was reading this, we'll fix this in the second draft. No, that all stayed exactly the same.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. The one big change in that opening that's a little different is Batman doesn't try to save Jack Napier.
Yeah.
Jack Napier goes up the scaffolding, is higher than Batman, and he gets shot and he falls. Like, there's no opportunity really for Batman to grab him. But, like, Batman isn't involved at all, which is weird because later he does say that he made him. That is in there, but he didn't.
Wait, it is?
Yeah. Somewhere
No,
Joker
it's
says
not.
something about how, or no. Bruce has a realization. He says, I made the Joker.
Okay.
Yeah, Joker doesn't say it. Bruce Wayne has a realization. I made him, and that's again something you would pull out more in a second draft.
Yeah.
They just had him try to catch him, and then not be able to hold him because he was wearing gloves.
Yeah, he didn't really make him.
Yeah. Again, there are problems with this, but it's all things that it seems like this is a really great first draft.
Oh no, I created my own enemy. Like, he almost needs a different relationship with Jack Napier if you're gonna do that.
So like it still has some of the problems that the theatrical film has, but again, like it all felt like stuff that you would work out in later drafts. You wouldn't just leave it.
Yeah, again, it's not at all perfect, but man, I'm telling you, if that came out, that's a 3-star movie.
Yeah. No. Just this script. Maybe if you take the Robin stuff out, just this script is a better movie.
And
than
Gordon is comic book Gordon.
Gordon is comic book Gordon. He's not in it a lot more, but he's written very different.
No, but it is interesting that it also has the Batman Begins thing where he's there when Batman's parents are murdered.
Yep.
And he consoles him. It's that same thing exactly.
Yep.
Where does that come from?
I don't know.
Is there a comic that does that?
I don't. I would have to relook at year one
Because
year one
I kept wondering how many things in this, or how many things Begins might have gone back and found the first draft of this and looked at. But it's hard to imagine they would have looked at. It's hard to imagine they would have looked at this.
Yeah, I can't believe that they would look at this. But I have to imagine that the Gordon consoling Bruce Wayne is either somewhere or it is just a really obvious idea that, like, it's easy to get to that thought.
So I may get some flack when I say this, but and I might get some flack just for using this as another opportunity to make this point. But if you go look at this, if we can get some people to read this, if it's available online, I'll look for it and see if I can put a link. Can we all agree that Schumacher deserves even less ire after this? I know he had nothing to do with this, but if this had been the movie that they made, it's especially not so far and away that he would want to make something like Year One, right? Like
Schumacher would have been the perfect director for this movie.
Schumacher tried to make this movie, or something very similar to this.
But he would have been the perfect director for this movie. He at the time.
Yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's really sad.
You're right. His sensibilities were so right for this.
Yeah. No, he should have directed Batman '89. You would not have gotten what you got with Batman Forever and Batman Robin.
But what an interesting artifact. It hurts my feelings because it's so Batman.
Yeah, and it's interesting how much it kind of structurally is the same. Where we have a lot of beats and same scenes, but they're so different. It's like, okay, this is the museum scene. This is the scene in the apartment.
And of course, they're enhanced by our knowing why they're there in the first place.
Yeah. No, this kind of completely changes Batman '89 and makes it really seem like they really screwed that movie up, and they could have had something. I don't want to say something special because that movie was a huge hit and it's really important to a lot of us and our childhoods. But they could have had something really special.
It's just it won't be any fun to watch '89 with people anymore because I'm not going to be quoting along with '89 anymore. I'm going to be pointing out all the stuff that was better in the script, and they're going to be like, "Leave me alone! Stop telling me about."
I don't think we would have gotten Spider-Man if this movie had been made. We wouldn't have gotten as generic super... the 2000s could be different because it would have set the bar higher.
That's a great... But yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
I also now really want to read Sam Hamm's script for Batman Returns and see if that's of similar quality.
Yeah. He's a good writer.
He is. And it's weird because he doesn't seem to have written anything else.
He's got some really good lines of dialogue. And he's got good voices for everybody. Everybody has a real distinct way of speaking in this.
Yeah. You've said that somebody's told you it's online. We should make sure it is online, but people should read this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you really like '89, or you really don't like '89, or even if you've just got nostalgia for '89, you've kind of come around on not liking it.
It's not a bad Batman story. I mean,
no, you should read this.
Just if you like gritty Batman stories, I mean, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's gonna be. Oh, and I should also mention there's a project I always wanted to do that there's no point to do now. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
about. I was going to do this project where I was going to go back to the just kind of a fan fiction thing. And I'm not a fan fiction guy, but I came up with this idea and I was going to do it kind of just for me, where I would go through the Burton and Schumacher movies and I would have the story beats be exactly the same, like what happens in it is the same, but infuse it with character dimension and details that make it all make more sense and work and make you more invested in the characters. And I'm like, oh, but it started from a place that already had that.
Yeah, no, Burton really messed that movie up. Because whenever you hear him talk about everything he says is counterintuitive to this script where it started. It's let's have a way less interesting Batman. Let's focus way more on the Joker, but not he's just it's really clear that his sensibilities messed up this script.
Yeah, and again, I get where he's coming from artistically. It just wasn't right for this material, and he wanted to make a thing that was all about visual imagery and wasn't at all about really telling a story. Mm-hmm. And it's just not the right material for that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's going to be it for Read a Book or Read a Script today. Thanks for watching, folks.